Denzel Washington didn't just write a check for a student at Oxford, he was hunting for a king. For 20 years, he kept a secret that only came to light when the world lost Chadwick Boseman. This wasn't just mentorship, it was a 20-year pact that changed Hollywood forever. Let's go back to the late 1990s. Denzel Washington was already a titan. He had just finished films like Malcolm X and The Preacher's Wife. He was the undisputed face of black excellence in cinema. Meanwhile, in the hallways of Howard University, a young student named Chadwick Boseman was struggling. Chadwick didn't want to be an actor at first. He wanted to be a director. He wanted to tell stories from behind the camera because he didn't see enough roles for people who looked like him. But his mentor, the legendary Phylicia Rashad, saw something else. She saw a spark in Chadwick that reminded her of the greats. When Chadwick and a few of his classmates were accepted into the prestigious British American Drama Academy at Oxford, the dream seemed impossible. Oxford was an ocean away, and the tuition was a mountain they couldn't climb. They were broke students with nothing but talent. Phylicia Rashad made one phone call. She called her friend, Denzel. She didn't ask him to audition them. She didn't send their resumes. She simply told him, "There are students here who need a bridge." Denzel didn't hesitate. He wrote the check for all 9 students, but he had one strict condition: it must be anonymous. Why did Denzel insist on anonymity? This is the core of the secret he carried. At 71, Denzel explains that he didn't want these students to feel like they owed him anything. He didn't want them to feel the pressure of the Denzel Washington Scholarship. He wanted them to go to England and feel like they belonged there on their own merit. But there was a deeper, more selfish reason, if you can call it that. Denzel was tired. He had spent decades fighting the Hollywood system alone. He was looking for his successor. He was looking for someone who could carry the weight of an entire race's dignity on their shoulders. By paying for that trip to Oxford, Denzel was planting seeds in a garden he might never see grow. He was betting on the possibility that one of those 9 students would become the one. He didn't know it would be Chadwick. He just knew that if he didn't provide the bridge, the next king might never cross over. For the next 2 decades, Denzel watched from afar. He watched as a young actor named Chadwick Boseman started appearing in guest roles. Then he watched him play Jackie Robinson in 42, then James Brown in Get On Up. Denzel never reached out. He never said, "Hey, I'm the guy who paid for your school." He waited. He watched the investment grow in silence. If this story moved you, hit that like button. It helps the algorithm show this tribute to more fans. And if you want to discover the deep, untold stories of Hollywood that the mainstream media misses, hit subscribe and turn on the bell icon. We don't just tell stories, we find the soul behind the legends. Fast forward to the premiere of Black Panther. The world was witnessing a cultural earthquake. This wasn't just a superhero movie, it was a movement, and at the center of it was T'Challa, the king of Wakanda. Denzel Washington was invited to the premiere, and as he sat in that theater and watched Chadwick Boseman command the screen with a dignity and grace that felt familiar, Denzel realized his 20-year wait was over. The seed he had planted at Oxford had grown into a redwood tree. When the lights came up, Chadwick saw Denzel. He walked over, his heart pounding, finally able to say the words he had saved for 20 years. "Mr. Washington, thank you for paying my school." Denzel, in his classic, witty style, joked back, "Yeah, that's why I'm here. You owe me money." But inside, Denzel was overwhelmed. He later admitted that he shed tears during the movie. He wasn't crying because the movie was good. He was crying because he realized his mission was complete. He had found his heir. The final chapter of their story is perhaps the most heartbreaking. Denzel decided to produce Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, a play by August Wilson. He hand-picked Chadwick for the role of Levy. This was Denzel's way of finally working directly with the man he had sponsored 20 years earlier. But something was wrong. On set, Denzel noticed that Chadwick was different. He was incredibly thin. He was quiet. He would go into his trailer and stay there for hours. Sometimes he looked like he was in physical pain. Denzel, being the father figure he is, pulled Chadwick's wife aside and told her, "You need to take care of him, make sure he's eating, put a ring on that finger and look after him." Denzel thought Chadwick was just acting too hard. He thought he was exhausted from the fame. He had no idea that Chadwick was dying. Chadwick was fighting stage 4 colon cancer. He was undergoing surgeries and chemotherapy between takes. He was pouring his final breaths into a film produced by the man who gave him his start. This is the secret Chadwick kept from Denzel. He didn't want his mentor to look at him with pity. He wanted Denzel to see him as a warrior until the very end. When Chadwick Boseman passed away in August 2020, the secret was finally out. The world learned of his silent battle, but for Denzel Washington, the revelation was a spiritual blow. At 71, Denzel now looks back at that time on set and realizes he was witnessing a miracle. He was watching a man give his life for his art. He realizes now that the 20-year cycle was a perfect circle. He gave Chadwick the beginning of his career, and Chadwick gave Denzel the end of his masterpiece. In his recent reflections, Denzel says something profound. He didn't get cheated. We did. What does he mean by that? He means that Chadwick lived more in 43 years than most people do in 100. He fulfilled his purpose. The secret Denzel carried wasn't just a financial one, it was a spiritual responsibility. He realized that God had used him as a vessel to ensure that Chadwick Boseman's light wouldn't be put out by a lack of money. The story of Denzel and Chadwick is a blueprint for the future. It tells us that we have a responsibility to pull the next person up, even if we never get the credit. Denzel Washington's secret reminds us that a true greatness isn't measured by how many awards you have on your shelf, but by how many kings you helped create. Because of a check written in the 90s, the world got a Black Panther. Because of a silent benefactor, a generation of children learned that they can be royalty. As Denzel continues his journey at 71, he doesn't talk about his movies anymore. He talks about service. He talks about watering the garden. He knows that somewhere right now there is another Chadwick at a university waiting for a bridge. The question is, who will be the next Denzel to build it? Denzel Washington and Chadwick Boseman are forever linked in the history of cinema. One gave the opportunity, the other gave his life to honor it. The 20-year secret is finally out in the open, but its impact will last for centuries. As Chadwick once said at the AFI Awards, looking directly at Denzel, there is no Black Panther without Denzel Washington. And today, Denzel would likely reply, and there is no legacy without a student who was willing to outwork everyone. They were two men from different generations, bound by a secret, a check, and a shared soul. If this story touched you, it's a reminder that a small act of kindness can change the world 20 years later. What's your check that you can write for someone today? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more untold stories of the legends who shaped our world. Rest in power, King, and long live the mentor.